Okay, Josh, are we good? There we go. Hi, welcome everyone to the Health and Recreation Committee meeting for the Village of Mariemont. We've got 3 items to go through here today that were on the agenda. The first item is going to be pretty quick because we just received bids back for the Murray Path project yesterday, and we're in the process of evaluating those bids. The good news is that the bids are, 4 of the bids are under the original estimate, so we're going to be able to stay within the budget pretty well on that, which will give us a little bit of additional money for landscaping purposes. But Chris, village engineer Chris Ertl, is in the process of evaluating those bids and determining the competency and the availability of the contractors to determine which contractor he would recommend to actually do the work. So we're not ready to discuss that detail because, again, he started on this this morning and didn't have enough time to, get through everything to make a recommendation to us. And there's a couple pieces that we need to actually go out and get a couple extra bids on a couple items that were not covered in the original bid, not material amounts, but because of that, we're not going to be trying to make a determination today or a recommendation to full council on Monday. We may try to do a council of the whole meeting later next week to address this, only because what we heard this morning is one of the contractors might be able to start as early as mid-April. So, trying to get this thing in motion, we may need to have a special meeting pretty quick to seek approval for the contractor that's recommended on the project and try to get this thing done. We kind of were telling people in the past that we would do it in the spring. I didn't think we had much of a chance given the fact we went out for bids this month, but we've gotten some good news that some of these contractors may have time available in their schedule to start on this right away. So any questions on that? So at this point, we're going to defer until we know a little bit more, but we may try to work this fast to get the contractor lined up and get going on it.
It was all good news.
Yeah, I think the fact that right now we're estimating we'll probably have about $85,000 for landscaping. We've raised almost $175,000, including the $75,000 from Columbia Township. So about 85 of that might be available just for landscaping on the backside, which we should be able to do a lot and landscaping on that space for $85,000. So I'll just kind of push that aside and say more news to come, but it's going to be quick news, hopefully, here as we get moving on it. The second item that was on the agenda is this minimum age to attend the pool unaccompanied. We received an email this morning that I forwarded to everybody from our insurance agent regarding their recommendations. And again, those recommendations look like they're pretty much outside the norm about what we're seeing other pool facilities in the area as far as what they require for a minimum age to approach or attend the pool without a parent, legal guardian, or babysitter. I think a while back I did forward you our solicitor's opinion is that our current policy is legal as far as Ohio Revised Code. From a legality standpoint, didn't have a problem with that. And even our insurance agent made that same comment that there's no statutory age limit on this. He just kind of looked at the age 15 as being the minimum age to be a lifeguard, which again is way outside the norm of what other pools in the area are doing. So at this point, the other thing I also forwarded to the members of the committee last week was the different levels of swim competency that the American Red Cross recommends. So you could get a chance to see what the types of criteria do they use to determine if somebody's competent at each one of those levels. So I don't know if we're in position to make a decision yet, or I'm going to open it up for some conversation about what additional information should we gather at this point? Because we got a lot of different opinions on this. And so, how do we reconcile this down to actually developing a policy? Anyone? Everybody's on mute, so I'm not sure if you're trying to talk or.
No, I guess the thing is, I'd like to see us at least have a consistent test and have that signed off. So it's formalized.
Do you mean a test that we would administer or that they would
That,
take?
well, no, like, whatever the particular level of swimming that per the Red Cross guidelines.
So I think Jordan was recommending swim level 3, which is what she was considering intermediate before. And there was a checklist that you would follow.
Yeah, I saw that.
That would have a skill set to
Right.
be able to test somebody about whether they had the competency to achieve that level or not.
Yeah, so so instead of kind of, I guess a process in place by which, this child is tested, evaluated, it's checked off, it's signed, there's a waiver, and that's filed.
Okay, and what age would you recommend that's done?
That I don't know.
Okay.
It seems like 9 is the youngest, and then it kind of tends to be 10 to 12. And, one pool had the 15 as, and I think that's extreme. That one I would probably defer to Jordan's judgment on, because she's with those swimmers every day.
There's, it's pretty rare, as somebody who's at the pool a lot, it's rare to have a 9-year-old by themselves come down to the pool. What often happens is, siblings come down, maybe one's 9 or 10, but they're down there with an 11, 12-year-old sibling, or a bunch of kids, come down. There is a good contingency of kids that between 9 and 15 years old are down at the pool, and a parent might be there, but parents might not. Not a lot of people 15 and older at the pool, period. Junior high and high school kids aren't there often. Having spoken with Jordan about it, Jordan doesn't feel that it's really ever been an issue. Maybe twice in her time at the pool over all of the years that she had to call a parent and say, hey, you need to come get your child. So if a swim test is required to be at the pool alone, that's one thing I would just throw out there. My 7-year-old daughter is a better swimmer than I am. She could swim, so I think it's really the age. I get swimming level, but lifeguards are there not to babysit, but lifeguards are there to ensure that every resident in the water is safe. I get where we want to watch out for unaccompanied minors and children. So I think it's really I would encourage your guys' decision to be based off of at what age, because it's not just in the water, it's kids running around near the snack shack and playing games. And 9 years old has never been a problem historically. I could support going up to 10 years old, but any higher than that, and I think you're going to have a lot of residents and parents upset and say, why are you changing this all of a sudden? And what's the issue, Ben? I think it's more rare than not that a kid is totally there alone at 9 years old. Those are just my thoughts on it.
Again, the policy right now is that children 8 years of age or under must be accompanied at all times unless they have passed the swimming test. So once they hit 9, they don't even have to pass the swimming test according to the current policy. So we could still have people below that, if they pass the test, come in under that age amount, pass the test and come in unaccompanied. So I think there's a couple questions here. At what level can someone attend the pool without passing a test? And then at what age limit do we have to require, and again, the problem we have a little bit on requirement is trying to enforce it. Because each individual person doesn't have a pass to get in the pool. There's a family pass. And, you know, we don't have great electronic systems down there to track who's coming in and out.
But I think this arose from the fact of, yeah, okay, I'm not on mute, sorry. The fact that you wanted to have a junior pass level. So that is ostensibly a situation where just a 9-year-old would be.
But they could still come in on a
No.
family pass and be below that level. We're still going to have to, you know, there'll be a junior pass for those individuals who don't want to buy a family pass. So it creates a little bit of difference there.
Well,
go ahead.
The only change we made with membership was to condense membership options so that, you know, a family pass really makes sense when you have, you know, 3 or more members of your family that are going to use the pool. So you buy a family pass, but a family pass membership does not mean that the whole family comes together.
Well, no,
So what we did
understand
is we got rid of the.
Go on, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go finish.
Hey, Lauren,
No,
this is
so
Terry. Just one clarification
Yeah.
on what you're saying is we have historically had a junior pass and we had an individual pass. And this year what we did is we try to consolidate those two into one price point. So we didn't change the age requirement and we didn't change the fact that there was an individual pass for people of 9 years old. We just combined it with what was considered an adult individual pass. So there was no new standard set is what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I think we're back to the question of what age does somebody have to have a swim test to be unaccompanied, and what age can they be, you know, get there without have taken the certification?
Well, and Joe, the if a swim test is instituted, which I would be supportive of, that would be a new practice. The kids right now do not get a swim test to be able to come to the pool.
You're right, but if they're above a certain age, they don't need a swim test to come to the pool unaccompanied. So again, the question is, at what age do they need a swim test to come unaccompanied to the pool? And then at what age do we just let them come unaccompanied without a swim test? What's those two breakoffs points? Because in essence, right
To throw
now,
something out there, I maybe.
in essence, right now, it's 8 or under. You need a swim test.
What if it was 9
9
and under? You know,
9
10
and
and older.
9 and above, you can come in without the swim test. That's kind of the break point right now.
How would folks feel about adding a year? You know, so 9 and under need a swim test. Would folks be comfortable with that? Just to throw something out there.
I'm fine with that.
I'm sorry, Lauren, are you suggesting that people under 9 years of age could come in with an individual pass?
Well, according to the current policy,
The question is,
go ahead, Joe.
the question is whether they get to come in unaccompanied or not. Which might, you know, Terry, your question might be, well, what age do we cut off them being able to buy an individual pass? Because how do they come, you know, unaccompanied if somebody else hasn't bought a pass already?
Right.
Right, it's
Yeah.
almost two different things. I mean, because we need to decide both. At what point are they allowed to buy an individual membership just for a child? And then the same thing, because they don't have to have an individual membership to come alone. They can have a family membership and come alone. So I think it's two separate things.
Yeah, I wonder if a lot of it could be solved by simplifying it into the decision of just at what age can a child come unaccompanied? You know, because I think very few people send, even if an 8-year-old passed a swim test or 7-year-old, I don't know of anyone who sent a 7-year-old down there by themselves. I don't think that's happening in Mariemont. So, you know, I think
So it
it's
sounds like you
probably
want
good
to, you
have
actually
that
want to do
policy of-
a third classification that, 7 or under, they need to be accompanied.
Well, I think you could even say, you know, you need to be accompanied if you're 9 and under or 8 and under. I don't know if that needs to change. You know, I'm wondering if you could get out of the business of needing to do a swim test, if you make it the same age cutoff. You know, any children 9 and under cannot be accompanied alone, cannot come, you know, unaccompanied, or 8 and under. I'm not sure. Because I don't think that lifeguards or Jordan need to turn into babysitters for really little kids. I mean, that's
All right, so let me say this. This is something we don't have to decide today because we got, I think, a couple weeks. I would say sometime before the end of April, we need to figure this out so we can, provide the guidance. And then it can be communicated to people. So I'll write up a quick one pager on it and share it with everybody. And then maybe reconvene at the next meeting and try to figure out where's everybody comfortable. And I'd like to get Jordan's input on this too. So if we can.
And again, I didn't mean to stir up a tempest. I just, I'm always coming from the place of what's safe. I have a pool in my backyard and I've seen kids get in it that shouldn't have, and said they could swim, and I've had to pull a couple out. So, and I'm out when my kids were little, I was out there with them, but I just, we have boats and we have a lake, and we've always made our kids wear life jackets when they were even outside when they were little. And so I'm really not trying to make the job harder. I just want to make sure there's a standard of safety so that, nothing bad can happen.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Marcy.
Thank
I
you.
agree with you too, Marcy. And I totally agree. And as a total side note, but if we could get parents that are there to actually watch their kids, that would help too, because there's lots of kids that come with their parents. And I've had to pull kids up who were bobbing a little too close to the bottom of the pool because mom and dad are socializing.
Yeah.
It takes a village, man. It takes a village.
Well, as I said before, it's hard to actually develop a policy that's enforceable. But I mean, what you just described is, it should be enforceable, but how, at what level is somebody not paying attention to their how do you define that? At what level is somebody not paying attention to their children in the pool? Do they have to have eyes on them? I mean, the lifeguards, you basically train them that their eyes have to be on the pool the whole time, and they're not to look side to side. They're supposed to watch the water constantly. I know the parents aren't doing that. They're involved in, conversations and their, iPhones and their newspapers and all the rest of the stuff. And they don't have eyes on that pool, as much as they probably should. So, all right. So let me do that. Let me put a little summary together, and I'll pass it around, and we'll try to address it at the next meeting and try to get, some sort of agreement as far as clarification on the rule.
So with regards to the memberships, I know we approved, did we approve it at the last council the way it was, or?
Right. We approved it the way it was, and what we said is if anybody bought a pass and they disagree with the policy, we'd give them their money back.
And we put, you had to be what, like 17 to buy an individual pass?
I think it was set at 9 based upon the current policy.
I'm sorry, which?
At age 9 or
Age
above.
9. Okay, so we adjusted it back. I can't remember too many.
Yeah,
things.
we adjusted it back, but we clearly indicated that, if we change the policy, and again, we don't sell that many of these, so it's not going to be that big a deal. So if we got to give, 3 or 4 or 5 refunds back, I'm okay with it. We just had to open up the registration and get going on it.
Gotcha. So
And again, as we're seeing, it's not an easy decision. I think any decision we make is probably subject to some second guessing. So.
I'm glad we did that. That was the right decision then.
All right, let's move on to the next item. I hate to keep saying we're deferring stuff here, but we're not ready to make the calls yet on some of this stuff. And probably we're going to be in that same point on this pool fencing project. So I had shared today the couple estimates that we got so far, one from Mills, one from two different ones from Eads. And let me do one thing here. Embedded in that in those estimates were a style picture for the black aluminum fence. Let's kind of start there to see what everybody thinks. I'm trying to figure out how to share the screen. Hold on. Bear with me. There we go. All right, can everybody see that drawing on the screen?
Yes.
All right. So this is the style that was kind of recommended by Eads. And there's a couple components to this. First of all is that bar across the bottom and not having any, whatever you would call them, pillars or pickets. I guess they're called pickets coming down, extending below that bottom bar. So there's nothing for people to cut their feet on, if they slide underneath it or get caught up in it. Then they talked about these two crossbars higher up. And again, the reason they do that is so you don't have interim crossbars, so it doesn't turn into a ladder. Try to put as much spacing between those as possible. And then on top are these, for lack of a better term, I call them pointers. That people have kind of thought about. So let me just start with, is everyone comfortable with this style if we decide to go with the black aluminum? I'm not saying we're doing the black aluminum because I'm going to get into the numbers in a second here. But is everybody comfortable with this style?
I like this style. I have a question though, and if I missed an email on this, I apologize, but is 6 foot the minimum requirement for height?
Actually, it's 4. Marcy is what we were told, but
Oh,
that's one of the things I want to make sure that I don't have yet is what is the actual Ohio Revised Code on this? So we're getting our information primarily talking to the fence salespeople.
okay.
So it's not a legal opinion. It's more of, they do a lot of these, but they informed me that 4 feet's the minimum. And so 6 is, reasonable to put in. And 6 is what we got down there right now, kind of on the existing chain link. So, that's kind of, and that's what these things have been priced out at, using 6 foot sections.
I feel a lot more comfortable with 6 than 4.
Yeah. And so, so is everybody comfortable with this style fence if we decide to go to black aluminum? So,
Yes.
all right. So I just wanted to kind of get through that. The next thing I'll share here is some of the costs that are there. And again, these costs are still, hold on here. Where's it at? There we go. All right, can you see that little spreadsheet I put together? Everybody?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Okay. So again, these numbers are not real solid because there's a lot of questions, and I can go through these in a second, but it kind of gives us a relative comparison between the different types of materials that we might use down there. So if we were going to put a fence around the entire property, it's roughly going to be about $47,000, which also includes the fee for taking down the fence. But again, these are not solid numbers because there's lots of questions. So I think, we'll and I've got calls in both to the Eads people and the Mills to try to, get a little more refined number put together. But it's about $47,000 for the black aluminum. And Eads came back with about $29,000 for black vinyl chain link fence, and right around $20,000 for galvanized. So there is a pretty substantial cost difference between the two. Now, we didn't see the same thing on the Mills quote. And again, I don't, I'm trying to run down exactly how many rails they're going to be involved. And if we did go with the chain link fence. So these numbers could change a little bit. that the cost difference is not as great, but that's kind of what I'm seeing right now based upon the information I've received, that there is a little bit of cost difference between, the three types of material we might consider. And then as you come down to the next line, what these numbers represent is if we just went with the front of the property in black aluminum and then used black vinyl chain link or galvanized chain link on the back, those are the numbers we're talking about. So it's about a $14,000 difference if we went with chain link on the back side of the property versus the black aluminum fencing all the way around. So my question is at this point, and again, if you want me to try to refine the numbers a little bit more, but my question is, is everyone comfortable with just staying with the black aluminum for the entire property? Or do we look at a partial deal?
I mean, that 47,000, remind me, how does that compare to the other quote?
So the 47,000 is putting black aluminum around the entire property.
Was that the same for both quotes? We got
It's roughly about the same. There's
44 versus 47.
okay.
right. And the 44, we need to pin down about whether fence removal's in there and all the rest. So this is where you got to
Yeah.
refine. So these are ballpark numbers. It's not exact numbers at this point.
Yeah, Joe, in the quote from Mills, it did include fence removal.
Okay. But again, what I'm trying to show here is the difference between the materials, not to try to pick one
Mhm.
contractor or the other at this point.
Right. right.
That's still to come. To refine the quotes and figure out which contract. Again, it's at this point it's trying to figure out what do we want the fence to look like.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
I skimmed the quotes right before I got on the call today, and
Right.
I did not print them though. And I thought I saw something for 22,000 for an aluminum something.
Joe, I can speak to that if you like. Terry.
Yeah. Well, the 22,000 is in these numbers that I've got. That's actually the front being the aluminum fence.
Okay, gotcha.
And then you go from there to what is the black vinyl and then what is the galvanized to finish off the fence line.
Okay.
So like when I show this 33,000 number
Gotcha.
here,
Okay.
the front of that is the black aluminum, the back is black vinyl.
Right. Like I said, I just skimmed them. So thank you for
Yeah, it was a little, and there's lots of other questions I've got on it, but I thought this was at least kind of give you an order of magnitude about how much are we talking about between the couple types of materials. So I'm just trying to see, okay, should we even be looking at the chain link at this point? Because there's another item that on the chain link that was discussed on the last call, which is, does our code even allow chain link fences in Mariemont? And Bill believes it does. I think there was a legal, or not, I won't say the legal opinion. It was a document that I think Beatty put together thinking that the chain link does not apply to commercial. It only applies to residential. So there's still some question about, what do we need to do if we decide to go to chain link? Bill believes we may need to do a planning commission meeting to get a variance to put it in. But again, why go down that path if we don't think the chain link is the material we want to put in?
I mean, ideally, the black aluminum, it looks nicer. It's going to give us the right aesthetic. It's, we've been trying to get away from chain link, in our village. I think if, the impact of the cost isn't that significant. Now I also think the black vinyl chain link, like on the back side of it, really probably wouldn't look bad. But what's that? The difference what is that worth? So I don't know. I'm open to either, but part of me kind of just thinks like, let's just do it right.
Avia, a couple of thoughts there that I think are, for me, I could be very supportive and would be thrilled if we did a black chain link or we did the aluminum. For me, you might get better sight lines with actually the chain link, visibility. Although you could maybe argue that with the aluminum too, because, it's not a honeycomb pattern. There's actually more to look through. But the aluminum one with the picket tops, you could argue has a better safety feature, preventing people to hop over it than the chain link. Although I personally don't worry about as much as maybe others of people breaking in or hopping the fence regardless. I think both of them will be an upgrade. But keeping in mind, it might be easier to hop a chain link than it would that picket top fence.
Yeah. Hey, this is Terry Donovan. I'll just give 2 cents for what it's worth. I appreciate the galvanized chain link estimate, but part of the recommendation here that we wanted to bring to council was an aesthetics improvement, given that, you know, we find ourselves in more competition as years go by, and competition tends to have, you know, higher aesthetic standards. So I would personally recommend that we put in front of you, the decision is really either all black aluminum, all black chain link, or a combination of those two, and not consider the galvanized option, even though it has the lowest price.
I completely agree. I don't even think, I mean, I guess I can't
I
speak for Marcy, but
completely agree
Yeah.
as well.
okay.
All right, so we have concurrence on that. Take the galvanized out. So that's good.
Marcy, what do you think? I mean,
Well, so I'm trying to think of this as a mother, okay? And so I'm responsible for the finances all across the village, right? And I would like to buy my pool child the best car I can buy him, or the best fence I can buy him. But if I'm looking at the whole entire budget, knowing that we're facing this layoff with Kellogg's, and knowing that, you know, we're jumbling things around in other places and trying to, you know, save money, I'm wondering if I, you know, should go with something, you know, that's not the Cadillac, that's, you know, or the Maserati, but more the, you know, what's that?
Chevrolet.
What's he say? Did you say Chick-fil-A?
Chevrolet.
Well, I don't think a combination of the aluminum and the black chain link would be a Chevrolet. I think that'd be a pretty nice ride myself.
That'd be very nice.
Yeah, I do think it would be nice. I think the all black aluminum would probably look a little better, but I still think doing aluminum in the front and the black chain link in the back would still look really nice.
All right,
So
so let's do this. I don't think we have to make the final call today, but let's let Lauren take this back to the pool advisory board over the weekend, and just, you know, narrow this down to a couple options and just get their feedback, so we know what they're thinking about. Because I can see the arguments on either side of this, and as I look around, yeah, the black aluminum is being put in to a lot of pool facilities that we've have looked at, but I also know the chain link's been put in to some pool facilities, you know, recently, you know, so I don't know that there's anything you can sit, you know, there are some decisions that are coin flips, and this might be one of them.
I can ask too. I can follow back up with both companies and ask to get any further data points that the Mills folks, I don't know if they're saying this as a sales point or not, but I said, is there a durability, longevity out of the products? Does it differ, chain link versus the ultra aluminum? And what Mills told me is that the ultra aluminum product has a longer durability lifespan than a chain link option would be. Now, that is to say that our current chain link fence has lasted 50 some years in the building. So I don't know if new chain links are as strong and durable as products 50 years ago, but that's another data point we might want to consider, knowing there is about a $10,000, $11,000 difference between the two products, as Marcy's pointing out.
Yeah, let me ask that question, because again, I've got
frees that money up for something else.
Yeah, I've got calls both into Eads and Mills. So let me ask them about the durability, see if I can get a stat on that, so we know what we're dealing with.
This is Mandy. I just have one thing, because I think it would sway decisions to the pool commission on what everyone on council thinks about that ordinance about no chain link fences. And so just from my perspective, if something's in writing that we're not going to allow our residents to have a chain link fence, it makes me think we as a pool and the village supporting a pool should also not be able to put in a chain link fence.
Well, let me make a comment on that because I do have the current code right here in front of me, and there is some ambiguity in the code. The starting section on fences, which is, if you guys want to look this up, it's 151.101. It clearly states in there, it shall be unlawful to construct a chain link fence or wire farm fence in any residential district which the pool happens to be in. However, if you keep reading around to 151.105, it talks about industrial properties, storage tanks, railroad crossing, right-of-ways, so on and so forth, or municipal recreational grounds. You would be allowed to construct what they're calling an open metal fence. Now, it doesn't specifically say chain link, so I don't know whether there's some distinction between the two, that around those types of properties, you could construct a fence of that type up to 12 feet. So clearly, I guess what I'm saying here, even given there's some, fuzziness in this, clearly there is a safety argument component to be made about properly securing the swimming pool. And I can't help but think that I would think the proper procedure for this would be essentially, if there is sort of this ambiguity, you would go before the planning commission asking for a variance to install a chain link fence around the pool based on safety considerations. And I can't possibly imagine that it wouldn't be granted. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm not really sure that I see an impediment that's not, we couldn't, overcome if you all want to opt for the chain link fence option.
Mhm.
And another point, just let me say this too, because I don't know whether it was Joe or maybe it was Lauren brought this up. As we go forward years from now and say the aluminum fence that y'all are considering gets damaged and you're looking to buy replacements sections for that, would they be available? Would they still be making them? I mean, I don't know whether they would or not, but it just seems to me that a chain link fence is something that's been around since dinosaurs, and even 100 years from now, they'll probably still have chain link fencing available. So that might be a consideration you might want to take, as well.
Well, we'll take Joe's recommendation here, and I'll get something out to the pool commission. And what we'll try to do to help your work as council is taking the galvanized option off the table. We'll make our recommendation for what the commission. We'll see if we can get a unified consensus from the commission, and then we'll leave it in the very capable hands of council.
Yeah, and again, this is just a health and rec committee, and it has to go in front of full council, and they can make a completely different decision than what health and rec recommends. So it's just what we're trying to do more than anything else right now is just take the deep dive and understand the options, explore the options, and be able to present the options to full council. So, again, as I said, I think there are some things in life that are hard decisions, and I think this is one of them, because the cost factor versus the aesthetics versus the durability versus the replacement, all this stuff comes into it, and I don't think there's a clear-cut winner here, unless we can figure out how to get the cost of the black aluminum down to the same cost as the chain link. I think it makes it an easier decision then. So.
Yep. And we can compare apples to apples, looking at, because there is some variance on the black chain link costs from Eads versus Mills.
Right.
And wanting to, when you get down to selecting an actual provider. But my hope would be that the work of the pool commission and the work of Park and Rec committee we're doing that debating work and the figuring it out now, so that hopefully council doesn't have to, even though they have the right to, take it around in circles again. That the process we want as a pool commission, we want to be able to do the round in circles for council as much as we're able.
Right.
Knowing that when we hand off our recommendation, as a pool commission, we trust the village leadership to make the right decisions for the village.
Yep. And I think we got a couple quirks on this one. I mean, this the ordinance regarding chain link is kind of a quirk, but yeah, if you guys can do that in the future, it helps us, be a little more efficient in the process.
Can I just ask one quick question?
Yeah.
So as a pool commission, how do you feel about the hybrid, where you've got the aluminum in the front and then the chain around the perimeter?
I don't know that we've brought it to a final discussion on that, but one individual and myself, I think it's a good option.
I'm just curious to hear what your opinions are.
Yeah, I think it's a good option, just relative to the whole chain link conversation. I was mentioning to Joe, just take a short walk around the village and you see tennis courts, baseball fields, football stadiums, all have chain link and they're all in the village. So this isn't, this is in scope with that. But I do like, Marcy, to answer your question, the consideration of a combination, and I think it should be on the table.
Could you guys live with a black chain link all the way around as opposed to what you have now? I'm asking, I'm asking your opinions. I just want to hear what you say.
Well, again, Marcy, we only have, go ahead. We only have 3 minutes. Go ahead, Mandy.
I probably have an unpopular opinion, but if I'm spending any money, which I think like 5,000 above is a lot of money, I want to see a difference. So to me, putting in the same type of fence, even if it was black to me, I'm like, if I'm spending that much money, I want to be able to like see it. But I do think that when we had the quote from just Mills, as a commission, we discussed and had a lively debate on it. And it was only a couple thousand more to do the whole thing in aluminum. So I think it was a no-brainer that, everyone signed off that was going to be our recommendation. With this new quote, it is a significant difference in the black chain link, and it makes me question it too, because I see that money being spent on a lot of other fun things and not a fence. So
that's the glory that the splash pool gets.
Right, exactly. So I don't know where everyone else is when we bring back these new numbers. I don't know where everyone will fall.
I just want to hear what you have to say. It's important to me.
Yeah, my I want to help facilitate, just as chair of the pool commission, the thoughts and opinions of the full commission and not try to sway that too much myself. But where my cards are, I really like the black aluminum with the picket top for the added sense of security and hopping the fence. I think it is very hard to hop a spear top picket fence. But would I be grateful if we had a black chain link all the way around? Of course, we're making upgrades. We're improving the village. It will be an improvement. So, team player, I think a $10,000 difference over the next 40 to 50 years, which, we should easily get out of a new fence we install, is just a little bit of money. If for the rationale that, it provides added security, if it has a longer shelf life, if that's what they told me. I don't know how true that is. Aesthetically, it is what most of our residents are putting into their private properties. It is kind of the industry standard now, the aluminum. So yeah, it's a big price difference now, but over the life of the product, maybe not so much. So, but I'm curious to see where all the other pool commission members were. Yeah, to Mandy's point, she's correct. The Mills quote having partial, the hybrid was only a $2,000 difference. And so, as opposed to full aluminum. So it kind of changes it with each quote there, but.
Okay, so again, I'm going to try to get this stuff done next week if we can. And so, quick question. I understand the schools are in spring break next week. So Don't get too happy, Mandy. Avia, she looks like she's on the phone. Marcy, you're around next week, aren't you?
Yeah, I should, yeah, yes, I am.
Okay. I'd like to check to make sure Avia's around, and I'll check with Maggie to see if
And
she's going to be. Again, we've got a couple things that we got short timelines on, and if we have to schedule a special meeting for the Murray Path, I'd like to do it for this also to keep it moving, because we have whatever decision we make, we have to get these materials ordered to give them a chance of installing before the pool opens.
Joe, this might jump the gun a little bit, but just so that we're all aware, or kind of working from the same information. I know in prior things that you guys have approved, like the painting at the pool, the council just approved a dollar amount, and then kind of left the selection of the company more to the. How do you see this moving forward as far as what contractor we work with, because there is a big price difference with some of the options.
Well, I'm hoping that we're going to have the specs a little tighter. And so we should be able to have some pretty decent quotes, between the two contractors. That's one of the reasons I wanted to get everybody to sign off on style today, is say, okay, let's carry this back. I'm going to make sure that the specs conform with regulations as far as the spacing between the pickets, the height, all the rest of the stuff, that we're addressing all the legal requirements. But I also want to make sure that they're both quoting the same gauge as far as the aluminum fencing, thickness and widths and all the rest of the stuff. So part of it is getting the specs down first about what are we, and then seeing what the two contractors have. I'm assuming that the fence material is going to be the same with both of them. It's just a matter of who's, there's probably not much difference between the two contractors when it comes time to actually writing the final sheet, if the specs are the same. I can't imagine it's going to be, really that much difference. But like on the fencing, what I do want to figure out is the one quote mentioned poles, 2 poles. I think, above, at the top of the chain link and at the bottom to hold it in place. The other one doesn't mention poles. So I'm trying to make sure that the poles are in both of them too,
Hey,
so
the
we
two
truly
rail,
have
yeah.
apples and apples. So, again, that's why I didn't try to get too deep on the proposals today, because I think there's still some variances between the two.
Yep. Great. Well, thanks everyone. Thank you, Joe, and thanks for everyone for just doing due diligence with this facility upgrade.
Okay, I'll check with Avi after the call and just try to make sure that everybody's going to be around next, or we at least have a majority to be able to get this stuff handled, because times are the essence at this point.
Hey, Joe, let me just throw in for the guys on the pool commission. I've been going back and forth with the insurance company regarding the claim on the roof down there. I sent her some additional information this afternoon. I'm hoping to hear back really soon. I'm going to meet with her down there, or an adjuster down there, to see if we can, advance the claim on the roof.
So let me ask you a question on that, Bill. Can we just put that on the agenda for Monday's meeting and approve up to $1 amount that we've got, and then whatever reimbursement we get from the insurance company, would net against that amount?
I would think so. Yeah, I would think
That
so.
way, at least we've got it done Monday, and we're not waiting for 3 weeks for the next meeting to approve that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can clearly do that. I mean, I try to encourage her that I would like to really move this along and get somebody out there, by next week. So.
Yeah, I'm assuming they're basically just going to tell you, here's how much we're going to give you on the claim,
Exactly.
and we just apply it against the invoice.
And that would be great, because we if those funds get approved for the roofing, we can start getting on the schedule for a company, because we'd ideally like to have the roof done before any painting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I can probably just say, given the age of the roof and the other circumstances down there, I wouldn't be anticipating a really large settlement from the insurance on the roof, although, sometimes weird stuff happens, and, they may agree to replace the whole roof, at least on that shelter building to the back.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, very good. So let me work on that tonight too, to try to make sure we get that on the agenda for Monday. Just try to keep making progress. Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you everybody for joining on. try to move the ball a little further down the field here. Right?
Well,
Sounds good. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks.
you.
All right.
Thank
Bye.
you.
thanks, Joe.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Bye, Mandy.
Have a
Bye,
great
Terry. Bye,
weekend.
Lauren.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Marcy. Yep.